My name is Tanner McCulloch, and for the final of History of Animation, Game Art, and Interactive Media, I will be talking about Shinji Mikami. Mikami's initial process was based on requirements given by higher-ups at Capcom, so they would ask for a theme for a game, such as a big horror game, to make them a success, without much specificity of what they needed from it, just something scary. Mikami generally speaks about how he's been inspired by many sources. So for his early works, such as Resident Evil and Dino Crisis, either he or someone on his team would provide an inspiration to kind of take from for a general direction for the game. So Resident Evil was inspired by an old horror movie, Sweet Home, in its general aesthetics, and through group brainstorming and voting, Dino Crisis was born based on an inspiration of King Kong. This is how a lot of Mikami's kind of process is enabled. He'll come up with an idea centered around a theme based off of the requirements of the studio he's working at, and essentially go from there, jumping off of different inspiration points that he's aware of. So he's talked about some games that he didn't get to finish that he had in the works based on Blade Runner, Studio Ghibli, just a ton of inspiration in his early days. So generally, though, there is this kind of inspiration-based strategy that he took to the inception of games. A lot of the time, there was no specific process. He himself admits that there's patterns that he took on, but there's no exact science to how he worked in the old days at Capcom. As his creative process progressed, Mikami was allowed more creative freedom with what he was able to do. This was essentially brought on by the kind of ethos surrounding game developers in Japan, where as long as they've got a couple of recognizable titles under their belt, which Mikami did with Resident Evil and Dino Crisis, they're able to have more freedom to do something more them and less studio-oriented. So Mikami speaks about how, quote, "After gaining experience, I started to slowly picture my next game while working on the current project. Out of multiple ideas, I present the one I wanted to make the most. Concretely speaking, there is no real routine to how I do things. It comes naturally. There's a difference between a bit and an idea. A bit can be great, but doesn't fit into a package as a whole. An idea is something that can fit inside a whole game. When one of these comes out, it is easy to pursue development. However, it doesn't happen that often." So he speaks about how, with most games, these bits kind of are approached like editing. You'll give and take from various sections of each idea, and you'll get kind of a Rocky Boat overall idea by the end of it that can be turned into something solid. Mikami's rarely able to force out these ideas, though. As he says, his process is very natural and just kind of comes about throughout, and doesn't really come out through aha moments, more so just continual elaborative design. So as we reach modern day, Mikami has moved on from Capcom and previous studios and has founded Tango Gameworks. He founded this company because, in his own words, funding comes because it's a creator who has made something in the past. As a business, companies want to feel more safe. Young people aren't given chances anymore. I saw this coming, and I thought that someone had to build a space for them. So generally these days, Mikami acts as a benefactor to struggling game designers. He more so fills a producer role, which he had done prior at Capcom, but it is his main calling at Tango Gameworks. So he's taken a back seat in the game design section, but he has said that he would love to work on the front lines again someday, as he misses that kind of development. In the Guardian's article on Mikami, they speak about his collaborative efforts at Tango. He converses quietly with the other spectators, exchanging observations and ideas. This is apparently how he works. Although horror is such an idiosyncratic thing, he seems to have found a way to make it while staying collaborative and approachable. He says in his own words, "I am open to the ideas from the staff. If it fits the scope and tone of the game, then I'll accept most of the ideas that come in." Personally, I love the horror genre as a whole, and the survival horror genre of gaming is a nice extension of that. So I tend to have a lot of interest in Mikami's work. I've only played a few of his games, but I do find their creativity accessible and unique. He's got a way of embracing ideas in his work that I feel is very resonant in the way it interacts with the audience. You'll have level design that jumps from idea to idea to idea, and you can tell he's worked with his staff to make sure that their ideas are embraced, but also that it leads to a cohesive product at the end. Even if there are parts of his games that are a little hard to grasp at times, it leads to a very fascinating and one-of-a-kind experience. Overall, I'd say his work does justify itself through its continued use of collaboration. It innovates through the ideas of many. Mikami's work is extremely influential in the medium of survival horror and gaming in general, and helped to advance a lot of what came after, and I think even on its own, it shows its merit in the artistry of the game design on display. Okay, bud, I have to move, bud. Okay, quit that. Come on. Move. Please. I don't just want to boot you off. I want you to be comfortable, but I gotta move you. Okay? Thank you. Very sweet.